Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about Vardapet Komitas. He is an Armenian composer, and he's generally regarded as the father of Armenian music. So he was born as Soghomon Soghomonyan, that's his birth name, in 1869 in modern-day Turkey. He had a very difficult childhood. His mother died when he was not even 1 year old, and his father was too busy to take care of him, so he was raised by his grandmother. He was sent to a 4 year elementary school at the age of 7, and then after completing his studies there, he was sent to Brusa, another city in Armenia, to complete his studies. And after only 4 months of being enrolled there, he failed and was sent home. And it was also around this time that his father had passed away, and he was only 10 years old at this time. So it was a very difficult, very turbulent childhood for him. He was also described as being very sickly and very frail little boy, but he was also very kind-hearted and known to care about everyone around him very deeply. And he also had a beautiful singing voice. He was a boy soprano. And it was actually his voice that opened up a lot of doors for him to new opportunities because he was always singing and everyone loved to hear him sing. This was a big reason that he was actually invited to go study at seminary and become a priest. So that's what he did. And that's why we now know him as Vardapet Komitas, because Vardapet means priest, and Komitas is the name of a famous poet, which is his namesake. So after his studies at seminary, he began Western composition studies with Richard Schmidt, and he traveled throughout Armenia to all different regions and notated thousands of folk songs from these different regions of Armenia. And he established a national Armenian school of music. Unfortunately, he was arrested by Turks during the Armenian genocide. He witnessed brutal executions of many accomplished Armenians, many of the great minds of Armenia that he had looked up to for much of his life. So this was very, very traumatic for him. His physical health was already not great, but this really took a psychological toll on him. And so he was placed in a sanatorium, and his physical health continued to deteriorate. And he was really never able to recover from this. He spent the last 20 years of his life in the sanatorium before he passed away in 1936. The piece that I'm going to be discussing by him today is his dances for piano. And I'm going to be specifically discussing the second one, which is called Unabi. So each of these 6 pieces are from different regions in Armenia. One of them is a specific folk dance specific to that region. So Unabi is the one that I'm going to be discussing. It's from the city of Shushi in Armenia. And the pedagogical features of this piece, I would put it at a level 7, not because it's particularly technically difficult to execute, but because it's not a Western piece, it may be more difficult for Western students to get used to, specifically the rhythms. So I think that this is a great piece to teach kids because it exposes them to a non-Western dance form of folk music. There are a lot of long, beautiful lines that need to be sustained, so it's a good opportunity to teach phrasing. It's very improvisatory, so it gets them familiar with that style, and it's also an opportunity to get them improvising themselves. Most of it is in a mixolydian mode, so you can teach them the notes in the mixolydian scale and then have them improvise their own melody. There are a lot of pedal tones in this piece, and they are sustained for a number of measures, so they need to be struck more loudly so that they can be heard under the melodic line. And this teaches their ear to listen carefully for balance to make sure that those pedal tones can still be heard. Ornamentation in this piece is also a little bit tricky because there are a few little ornamentations that the first note is struck, and then there's a grace note, and then the first note is the one that you hear, but you're not supposed to reattack it. So the first note that is played in the ornamentation is sustained. And this is not something that's very common in Western music. So it's a little bit difficult for them to develop the coordination to do that. And then, of course, the rhythm, since it's different, like I said, from most Western music, it's going to take a little bit of time for them to wrap their heads around. It's not going to be as intuitive for them, but it's also very good for them to develop their sense of rhythm because it will force them to think about it more and play it accurately rather than just imitating it. They really have to understand what's happening rhythmically, and this will help them play all different types of music. So this is all that I have to say about Komitas and his dances for piano. So now I'm going to demonstrate the second dance of the set.